All righty, here we are, live on a Saturday night. Got my buddy Russ Meadows here. Got Javi over there in
Hey.
what he refers to as the Gatton.
Gatton room.
Welcome, everybody. We are here for another Q&A CNC
Spectacular.
Yeah, well, I don't know how spectacular it's going to be, but I really don't have any big topic planned. I did have a couple of things where I want to ask you guys, the guys that are watching, some questions. But we'll take whatever questions y'all have, or try to answer them anyway. So throw them out there. Let's see. I tell you, we get so many folks watching these days. I'm not even going to try to give everybody a shout out because
there's a bunch.
It'd take the whole daggum show to
give
everybody a shout out here. But thank you all for. I see a lot of new names here too. Like this one, Works with Wood. I'm not sure who that is. If this is your first time here, welcome. Here's somebody from France. I don't know that I've seen that name before, so welcome. Landis is watching, and I hope Matt's watching too.
Works with Wood is John Cousins.
Oh, okay.
Huh?
Let's see, I don't know.
I have a
hard enough time remembering.
Yeah.
Names, much less their names and what their YouTube channel is. That's what I know people like to have these little, cute YouTube channel names and all that stuff. But to me, it just makes it way harder because I'm doing good to remember names.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and see, I like them when they do like this, like John puts the name and the channel thing all in one thing.
Right.
So I like if you're gonna put the channel, have a channel name, that's the way to do it, I think, where you got your name in there too. And then of course we've got just Jim. Two Sticks CNC is his little logo there. So welcome, Jim. Yeah, we got all kinds of folks out here. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us tonight. But one thing I wanted to talk about, and as I look through these names here, you notice any common thread amongst all these names right here? As you scroll down the long list.
They seem to be male.
Yes, they all seem to be male. And that was one of the things I asked on the Facebook group the other day. Because I know we've got a few gals in there. But I'm just wondering why we don't have more. Because this really isn't or at least to me, it's not a guy thing. To me, I think women are a lot more creative than guys are. I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but
in some of the groups on Facebook, the CNC groups, there are quite a few women that are using the CNCs they're not on the show. They're not. I don't know. I put it out before, but evidently they're scared to come on or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know. I can name a couple right off the top of my head. Of course, Becca Miller, who's been on the show before. She's a longtime CNCer, and I consider her a veteran, even though I know she doesn't probably consider herself one. But she first built the shoestring budget thing probably about 5 or 6 years ago now. I think she got it in. Let's see, I came out with that in 2014. So, yeah, at least probably 4 or 5 years she's been doing it. And she's since, bought a Gatton and built it. So, So there's that. I know that Melinda, who's probably not watching tonight either, I'd love to get her back on the show. It's been like 4 or 5, 6 years, however long it was. She was on the show, and I'd like to get her back on. But she got the very last metal Sidewinder that I had.
She's an extremely creative woman.
Yes,
very creative, super creative. And that's kind of where I get that. I think women are more creative than a lot of guys, because I don't know. I guess maybe they cruise Pinterest more than guys do or something. All these ideas, I don't know. But yeah. So there's Melinda and Becca.
Carrie Van Every.
Carrie Van Every. She was one that commented on that thing. Is it Mary Mallory? I think is her name. The one that's in my old hometown.
Oh.
But I don't think she's completed her build yet, but she's getting close, I think. But yeah, I would love for, I would just love to see more gals, women, females, whatever the politically correct way of saying. I hope I'm not offending anybody.
Broads and chicks. Yeah.
Yeah. I wasn't going to say that. Gals, women, ladies, whatever. I'd like to see more of them get into this hobby because it's, it's a great hobby, and it shouldn't be a guys only thing. So my next question, since I'm still seeing only guys in the chat over here, how many of you guys out there that that have a CNC and work in your shop, how many of you guys have your wife or better half or significant other, whatever it might be, whatever you call them, girlfriend, how many of them actually help you in some way? Maybe they do some of the design work, or maybe they get out there and help you run the CNC. Another one that just came to mind is Carlos. You remember Rebecca and Carlos?
Yeah,
right.
Yep. Avery.
Yeah, she can run. I think Carlos started out doing it, and then Rebecca, I think, kind of took over. And he ended up having, I guess, so he could have one to play with. But I think so. She can run one. Yeah, I'm just curious, and I don't know if he's out there watching tonight, but Greg Euler, I think, said that his wife does the design and he does the cutting. I'm pretty sure, because I think he sent some pictures the other week, which nobody sent me any pictures this week. I think there was somebody that sent some. I probably never find them now.
Well, Richard Kowalski said his wife Cindy is a Vectric superstar.
Okay. Let's see.
I'll tell you one thing. My daughter.
D Herman 67 says my wife is helping a lot. She's gifting all my creations. I guess you got to get rid of them some way. Otherwise, you'll.
My wife has zero interest in any of this. I mean, we have a lot in common, but not when it comes to wood. I mean, I can't say zero interest. She knows. I mean, she's a smart woman, so. She just from watching me, she knows everything I do, and she knows her way around a CNC. Not enough to run one, but enough to know what it all does. So it's not like she's completely oblivious. But my daughters, on the other hand, they've shown a modicum of interest. They're young, they're in high school, so they're all into crafting and things like that. So anything that adds to it. So. Every once in a while, you say, "Dad, can I get you to make me this?" And I'll cut it out on the CNC, and they'll stick around and watch. But short of that, it's I envy people like James King, who if you've ever seen King's Fine Woodworking,
his daughters get right out there with
him.
His daughters get right out there with him, and every one of them loves it, and it's wow to have that.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering, like I said, I think, like I said, when Greg Euler said his wife does the Vectric stuff and he does the cutting, I'm thinking, wow, that'd be kind of nice to have somebody do all that, and all you have to do is worry about running the machine.
Yeah.
I'm just not a very creative person, and I just wondered if how that works, but it looks like it's not a popular thing from what I can see from the comments. Now, Todd here says his girlfriend has run his a few times, so yeah. All right, well, we'll move on to something else then. I was just curious about.
I like what Samurai Logistics said further down.
This one here.
Yeah.
My wife saw what I spent so far, then went a shopping spree for more shoes.
Nice.
That sounds like what my wife would do.
Yeah. And Mike says he's afraid his wife would find out how much he's spending.
Todd says his girlfriend knows the G code better than him.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's my point. Is it's not like, you've heard me say it a million times. This stuff isn't rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
Even building a machine is not rocket science. So, I'm just kind of surprised that once a guy gets a machine or builds a machine, that the missus hadn't come out there and like, yeah, that's kind of cool. Let me try that.
Yep.
You go sit down over there and let me try, but apparently that's.
Well, my wife saw the machine as I was building it. And when I got it done, I was so happy to get the first thing carved, and she come out and watched that. And that's the last of it. She has no desire to be around it. She's got too much of her own stuff going on.
Yeah. Well, your wife's got her own thing, She
yeah.
I mean, she's a creative person. She just does something other than CNC.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we'll move on. And has anybody got any kind of questions?
Yeah, Bob Helterbrother's got a question.
You had a question earlier on post processor, but I don't think it was a Gatton question. So
do you remember who it was that said it?
Yeah, it's 808 Stephen James.
808. See if
I'm not sure if it was Gatton or not, but which
here we go. He says, I'm using VCarve desktop with universal G-code sender. I guess. Which post processor do I use to save toolpaths? Man, I had that X-Carve for just a really short time and use that universal G-code sender. But I would think if you pick a generic, if they have like a Mach 3
Mach 2, 3 arcs, Mach 2 inches,
like that would probably work okay.
Oh, my arm is killing me.
See if there's any.
See what else we got.
Well, Bob Helterbrother said he needs to turn a 1-inch square to be half round, and one corner has to be 90 degrees.
Okay, here's Mary. I was talking about her earlier. She says, I am the one building at my house. My husband is not that interested. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, let's see. Now, what was that? What was it you just said, Russ?
Bob Helterbridle said he needs to turn a 1-inch square to be half round, and one corner has to be 90 degrees.
A 1-inch square, half round, and one corner has to be 90 degrees.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Okay, turns out. Okay, 1-inch square. Oh, and the corner has to be 90. How can half round and 90 degrees? I mean, okay. If okay, here's something I'll throw out there and see if this works for you. They have a round over bit. If you run it on the line, you'll make a half round, and you run it on the line. If it's a square, make a square, and you've got a square 90 degrees, but it'll be rounded over. I don't know if that's what you want.
Yeah. Turn a 1-inch square to be half round. To me, am I missing something?
Oh, wait a second. Okay, maybe 3 of the sides have to be.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay, if 3 of the sides have to be half round, then simply make a 1x1 square. Okay, remove one side, extend the 2 lines, and run it on the line. I don't know if you got all that. A 1x1 square. You just remove one segment, so that's the side that'll be 90 degrees, and extend these 2 lines, so the round will cover all the way and won't cut short.
It will cover the 3 sides.
It'll cover the 3 sides. Is that what you want? Because there has to be a transition from the 90 degrees to the half round, if we're understanding you correctly, which
he said it will look like quarter round molding.
Oh, to look like quarter round molding? Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, same thing. If you want it to look like quarter round molding, one side of quarter round molding is basically using a round over bit on the by the correct round over bit. Whether find out the diameter that you want, and that's it. I want to say it's not rocket science, but rocket science is in some ways is easier.
Yeah. Leo Steger asked, "How wide do I need to make my y-axis on my Gatton to be able to fit 48 inches through it?"
52 5/8. Bare minimum. But remember, you want clamps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, well, if you make it 49, you can fit 48 through it. You just probably won't be able to clamp it. But yeah, you need it at least, give yourself, depending on what kind of clamping methods you're going to use, you're going to need to add at least 6 inches probably to it.
Yep.
All right.
Yeah, and when you say and Leo, when you say how wide do you need to make the y-axis, that depends really on what part of the y-axis. Because are you talking about the longest rectangle pieces? Those, like I said, they'd have to be 4 5/8 inches longer than your cutting area. Because they'll pick up 2 5/16 on either side. If you're talking about the length of the screw, I mean the length of the lead screw, that's a whole different measurement. So just make it 6 inches bigger and have a nice day.
Yeah. Let me ask this one from Glenn. Yeah, I said I was looking for a particular font that was on a piece that was a Precious Moments piece, and somebody had changed the text at the bottom, and it looked like the text that he put in was the same font, and I didn't know what that was. And I asked the guy, and he said he was going to get back with me, and he never did. So he was asking me did I find it, and then he tells me what he thinks it is. And in answer to his question, no, I did not get the answer. So
do you have a piece? Do you have the piece to look at?
I do not.
Oh, okay.
It's one of the models in that subscription plan that I'm in.
Okay.
And it has text at the bottom of the model.
Right.
And somebody took it and changed the text a little bit to change it. And so they put different words in it and kept the same font. So I was just wondering where he got that font.
Oh, got it.
And when I asked him, he wasn't at his computer and stuff. And he said he would get back with me and let me know what font it was. And I still have not gotten an answer yet. So to answer Glenn's question, he just tells me he thinks it's ink free. It's a true type font.
If you can send me a picture of the font, remember I used to be a graphic artist. I got 44,000 fonts in my head. I still.
Okay, I'll do that.
I'm still pretty good with them, and I've got 2 or 3 tools to identify them.
Okay.
Landis says, I just got the triple edge finder and am in the process of redoing the offset page to display X and Y writing script to make them work. Has anyone else done this?
Not me. I have mine still sitting in the package it came in.
I have, but it's a different script. So
yeah.
All you got to do is I mean, he knows what to do, right? Just go in and, well, the triple edge finder, don't they ask you to calibrate it? I believe that one does, if I read the script correctly. Maybe I'm thinking of a different script. But if you got to put it in there, there are usually on most of these scripts there are little remarks. It says enter your X distance here. So measure the X and the Y distance. I mean, you're going to have to do that. Maybe get some graph paper and align it with one side, and then you can easily see. Trial and error. Set it at what you think it is, and cut a test piece.
D. Herman 67 asked, would you know any software that allows to transform a picture 2D into a 2.5D model for our CNCs?
Yep.
Yeah.
Photo VCarve
is one of them.
I have another program, but it's industrial, it's commercial, and it's a bit more expensive. And I'm not even sure if they still sell it yet because I used it when I was doing signage. It's far better than Photo VCarve, but it's called Photo Grav, Grav. But anyway, so that's a whole other world.
All right, Stephen James says, a follow-up to my post-processor question. I'm only getting X-axis movement, no Y-axis movement. My Gatton homes and probes just fine. Maybe it's not a post-processor issue.
Did you try an MDI command? Did you try?
If it does, if it moves with when you home it, that's just the script telling it to do that. So yeah, you try an MDI command to see if it moves, or apparently it's not jogging with the buttons. Have you made sure you set up your hotkeys for the Y-axis, or at least you're pushing the right ones?
He says it doesn't. It moves when it jogs. He says it doesn't move when it runs, or just when it jogs. He
says it homes and probes just fine. So
okay, yeah, try
moving, but he says, but I'm only getting X-axis movement, no Y-axis movement.
Yeah, try to jog it and see if you get it, and that'll eliminate, whether it's if it doesn't jog, there's two things to check. No, because if it moves regardless, it's not mechanical. It's basically if it doesn't jog, well, then there's a big issue. Well, that's the mapping. But try the Y0 and then do a Y0 and a Y5 or whatever, have it move and see if it moves on the Y-axis with the command.
He says it jogs just fine. Running a job, no Y movement. Well, then you probably, if you look at the code, you probably don't have anything telling the Y to move.
Yeah.
Because if you can MDI move it and jog move it and it homes.
Yeah, it's a software issue.
It's a software thing. Let's see. We got somebody from the UK here. Any motion board you recommend for Mach 4? I'm not a Mach 4 user, but the anybody that buys an Avid now, they try to push Mach 4 because they sell it. And so I know it will work with an Ethernet smooth stepper because that's what's in their controller. So, and it should work with all the other stuff, the UC 100s and UC 300s and 400s and all that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of good ones out there. And I'm not sure what would be, since you're in the UK, I don't know what would be the best one to get that would be readily available. All right, here's another one. Water or air-cooled spindle, 1.5 or 2.5?
My preference is water, but it's a preference thing.
Yeah, it's really, the thing you got to remember is when you turn the spindle on and it's just sitting in the air spinning, the water cooled spindle is going to be quieter than the air cooled.
Yep.
But when they hit the wood, they all are the same.
Yeah.
They're all going to make noise, and probably your dust collection is going to make more noise than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, boy, does it.
It's really a preference. I personally, I have one of each. I have the 2.2, which is about, I think that's just a hair under 3 horsepower, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I have the water cooled on my Gatton, and I have this pretty much the same spindle. It's a 2.2 air cooled on my Avid. I like both of them for different reasons. I like the water cooled because the big advantage is you can slow the RPMs to pretty much whatever you want, as low as you can get that dial to go without stopping.
Yep.
That's about how you can do with the water cooled. However, with the air cooled, the minimum's about, at least for mine, they say the minimum's about 8,000 RPM because you have to have it moving fast enough to keep it cool.
Yeah, and exactly as Dave pointed out. I mean, the advantage to the air cooled is you don't have to have all these. You don't have to be changing water. You don't have to have the pump and the water. It's a pain. And remember, these things have their own enclosed tank inside, so it's not like a router where the air is getting into the electronics. They're still separated, and it's a heat sink on the spindles. But the big disadvantage, and that's why I have a water cooled, is like Dave said, I can slow mine down, and it's pretty powerful, even slow. So if I want to say get a little bit fancy and put a reamer on it and ream some screws or something where I need extremely slow speeds, I can do it without worrying about it. Like, for instance, drilling. If you're doing a lot of drilling and you're mounting drill bits are not meant for high speed. Well, you got high speed drill bit, but a high speed drill bit is 800 RPM, not 24,000. So, did we lose Russ or no? He just shut off his camera.
Yeah, I think he just shut it off. Let's see. VZP38W says, "What is a good USB breakout board?" If it's just a breakout board and not a motion controller, there's a gazillion of them out there, and they're all pretty much the same.
Parallel is they're all the same. USB, they don't make breakout boards for USB. You have to have the software, and thus it's going to be an all-in-one. I mean, there are a few that are specifically dedicated to be breakout boards, but it's kind of like it's just a waste. It's a waste of money because you're buying a USB board to be a breakout board. Let's put it this way. It's difficult for me to express this because there's no such thing as a USB breakout board. A breakout board means you're breaking out the pins of a parallel port. So you have pins 1 through 25 exposed to you, and you have access through a little terminal of each one. USB, there's 8 pins in a USB. You don't break those out. It doesn't work that way, or 5 pin actually. And it's. Well,
I'm wrong, but I was thinking he was talking about one where it uses the USB to supply the 5 volts, but it's still using all the other pins.
Well, the thing is, the USB, a USB is a completely different port. It's serial as opposed to parallel. So really, there's only 2 pins being used, and it's serial data. Actually, it's 2 and 2, but it's serial data going through there. So anytime you want to do a control of any sort, like input, output, pin this, pin that, there is no pin this or pin that. It's actually done with a processor mapped from USB into it's not a breakout board. It's difficult to explain.
Well, in that case, then he'd probably be better off just to pick one of the many different kinds, because you got the smooth stepper, which is Ethernet. You've got an Ethernet from, what is it? The UC400, I think, is an Ethernet.
Yeah.
You got I think the 300 still is a USB, or maybe it's both. Where you
it might be both. It's probably both.
I can't remember, but anyway, there's plenty of them out there, and to me, it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen of none. You got to figure out what you want.
Yeah.
You just if you're just going to be adding a lot of stuff, you just need lots of, you need all the inputs and outputs on it.
Yeah. If you're going to be adding that many things, then I would suggest you get a parallel port card or 2 and put 2 parallel ports on there. You have the different port numbers. You can configure it all in Mach 3, but that's ridiculous. You're talking about 16 different connections. Why is my question? Why are you, homing switches. I still don't get why people go, well, I want to put my X plus homing switch on one, my X minus on another, my X home on a third, and I want to do the same thing with the Y, the A, and the Z. You got 12 pins for something that 1 will do, because they don't all they can only be triggered. They can't be triggered more than 1 at the same time. You understand?
Okay, now we're getting a clarification here. He's trying to use a new computer with no printer port.
Okay.
Yeah, UC100, or if you need a breakout board type, get the 300 or go with an Ethernet deal, the UC 400 or the Ethernet smooth stepper.
Yep, and I use the same smart board or something equivalent. which is for USB, and it's a full motion controller with 4 inputs and 4 outputs. However, the UC100s are a lot easier to configure than one of these boards. I mean, my hobby boxes, my controllers come already masticated for the people, so they just plug it in and they go, plug and play. It's you see the threads all over the place of people having a nightmare issue. But if you want to try one of those, that's another option.
Yeah. Works with wood. Who did you say that was?
John Cousins.
John.
No, I don't think that is.
No, wait a second.
It's not. John is wood if I could.
Ah, wood if I could. That's right. That's right.
Okay. This guy, John.
No, you're right. You're right. Yeah. That's what they get for not putting their name there.
That's right.
Dave, how many inches per minute do you run when you cut your kits out? I have a 1/4 inch upcut into Baltic birch plywood, 1/8 passes, ran at 50 inches a minute. I have a feeling I can go faster, but well, you know.
Depends on the machine.
Yeah, it depends on the machine. But on my, here's the thing. When I run them on my Gatton, I usually run 0.156 per pass, so a little bit deeper pass, but I run them normally at 70 inches a minute. Now, I know I could go faster than that, but because I always, and I do mean always, run that thing, I guess unattended might not be the correct word, but I'm not right there at the machine. I'm always somewhere else listening or watching it and listening on a camera. So I ran it. I think that's conservative, 70 inches a minute, a little over 1/8 of an inch pass. Now, when I run it on my Avid, which is a whole nother animal, I can run them at 150 inches a minute at 1/8 the pass.
Yep.
And they'll finish in about half the time.
And you can even run them faster.
But you're talking about we're comparing apples and oranges now, because if I wanted to build more Gattons, I could have built about 4 or 5 more for what I paid for the Avid. So it's not a fair comparison, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, he says he has a Gatton, so I'm assuming he'd like to bump it to your speeds.
Yeah, you could probably try, at an 1/8 inch pass, assuming yours is as solid as mine, and it should be. You could probably go 70, 75, 80, maybe more. It just depends. Like I say, I always run my stuff conservative because
I run 120 on my Gatton. I run my Gatton 120 with 1/4 inch pass, and it hasn't been an issue. So I mean, but again, depends on the bit, depends on the wood, depends on the design of the Gatton. Because I mean, obviously the design is the design, but how did you build it? How big did you build it? Did you build it monster size like I did, where it's 7 foot wide, and then you're basically got a lot of drag, so you're or did you build it 2 foot wide and you can fly through stuff?
Yeah, Jerry's pointing out that I could have built about 6 Gattons, and you're absolutely right, Jerry. I could have. The problem is I only had room for 1 more machine. That I splurged on myself.
Oh yeah.
But in fact, we're talking about inches per minute. I've been cutting some aluminum. And of course, I don't cut an 1/8 inch pass on aluminum with that Avid, but I can cut. I was cutting it at 100 inches a minute the other day, and it really likes it faster. Because it started making a noise, and I made the mistake of slowing it down, and that was the wrong thing to do, because it just causes it to. What I should have done is
it'll burn up.
And I just instinctively slowed it down, and it made it gum up. And
Yeah, aluminum. You want the chips big and to fly, and that dissipates the heat like this and keeps the bit sharp.
Yeah.
The same thing holds true of wood, but whereas aluminum doesn't have tear out, the bigger chunk of wood you cut, unless your bit is super sharp, and then with plywood it won't be for long, you're going to get tear out.
Jerry says, let's see what he says here. I stick with 80 inches a minute on plywood, but I also have not dialed in the settings, so any faster, it rounds the corners badly. Yeah. Yeah, you also have to have your
the settings correct. Yeah.
Velocity settings correct.
Yeah, I always do 120 on mine. But
you got video of that? Because I'd like to see that.
Oh, absolutely. Let me hang on. Where's my?
You know the internet rule. Internet or
video. It didn't happen. I'll tell you what. I'll put it out there for you. By next show, you'll have a bunch of video of that.
Because I'd like to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Dave Clemens asked, "What are some decent, budget-friendly CNC bits?" Well, that depends on your budget, because what's friendly to me may not be friendly to you. I personally, I think you kind of get what you pay for. It doesn't mean you have to pay, $50 for a bit, but I like to use my favorite with using the plywood that I cut is CMT. I've tried Freud. Yep. Let's see, Amana, Whiteside, and CMT, and I found that I get the most mileage out of a CMT bit. They seem to stay sharper longer in plywood. And they run, the 1/4-inch upcut runs about 18, 19, maybe $20, depending, the price varies a little bit on Amazon. And for a downcut, it's a little bit more, $1 or $2 more for those.
Yep.
And of course, around 30 something, I think, if you get a compression bit.
Now wait a second. He asked budget friendly. Okay, so not taking into account quality, Vermont American. I'm sorry. I really
didn't say disposable bits.
I'm sorry. I can't. I really tried to have a serious face when I said it, but I can't. Vermont American bits, you can get them for $1 to $5 each at the nearest craft show, and they're pretty sharp until you actually cut wood with them.
Yeah, you might cut your finger putting it in the chuck, but after that, it's safe.
Yeah, especially since once you cut your finger, the blade is dull.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Larry says he's having issues changing from UC 100 to UC 400 Ethernet.
Can't help you there.
Well, to me, the Ethernet ones are a little bit more difficult to get set up because you got to have all the right
settings.
Yeah, what do you call it? The
drivers.
The address and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas with the USB, it's not that difficult. But there's lots of guys that use that, Larry. Michael Chipser, I'm pretty sure, uses the UC 400. He should be able to help you out.
Yep. As soon as my Xylotex finally breaks down, I have the 400 sitting in a box.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get him to help me with it, probably.
Or sell it and buy a hobby box.
That's true.
Jerry Brown says the cheapest I will go in a pinch is Diablo from Home Depot. Yeah, like I said, when you say budget friendly, again, it just depends on how your budget is. But to me, anything less than $20 is probably not going to be that great of a bit, just from what I've seen.
Except the CMTs.
Steve
Jerry says he 400 width is out of text.
The CMT bit will outlast $4 or $5 bits all the time. Yeah, I would agree with that statement. Like I said, I've tried them all because I'm cutting plywood all the time, so I wanted to try different ones to figure out which one I got. I could get cut the most blanks with before it started really getting too fuzzy that I had to swap it out. And I found that CMT was the best for at least the plywood I cut.
Yeah, Jerry Brown says he did go Amana on all his tapered ball nose, and it's so worth the money.
Oh yeah,
I tend to agree. All my tapered ball nose that I use for my 3D projects are all Amana bits.
Yeah,
I've had good luck with them. I've got them. I've had them since I've started, and I haven't had any problems with them going bad yet. And that's been a couple of years.
Yeah, I ordered some, just to tell you how old mine are. I ordered mine from a guy named Dan St. Germain. He's the sales rep or distributor or something. He's somehow tied in with Amana. And I ordered them from him at a wood show. And that should tell you how long ago.
Yeah, because they don't sell them at wood shows anymore.
Well, actually, in actual fact, I think it was 2 years ago now, 3 years ago, that the wood show in Houston, they were there, and Amana reps were there, and I bought some there at that wood show. So you can still get them, but they're at the Atlanta Woodworking Show and stuff like that. I never did see them.
Yeah.
But at the Houston show, lo and behold, they were there.
Well, I ordered, nobody has them where you go to a wood show and you pick the bit you want and get them and buy them and go home. You order everything now.
Right.
This was at the show in Hickory, North Carolina, the Klingspor Extravaganza.
Yeah.
So it's been 2.5 years ago or so. And I got three. I got a quarter inch ball nose, the 1/8 inch tapered ball nose, and what's the other one? A
16th and
30. It's a 32nd.
1/32, 1/16. Yeah, it's tiny as all heck.
Yeah,
and I use them. Believe me.
Yeah, I used it for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and it ran good. Dave Clemens asked, "Where do you get the CMTs from, Dave?" Pretty much where I get everything.
Amazon.
But CMT is the seller. They sell on Amazon. And if you want to make sure you get the right one, if you scroll down, hit the show more button, and you'll see CMT 1/4 inch upcut spiral bit. There's an Amazon affiliate link for all the stuff I use. Whiteside, there's some Amana, there's some Freud, there's some Yonico, there's all kinds of stuff in there. That's the exact same stuff I use.
They sell yarmulkes?
Yonico.
Amazon does, yeah.
Yeah.
I got one. I don't really like it. I bought it because it was extra long. I was looking for something that had some length to it, but I wasn't that impressed. Yeah, Jerry Brown says Amazon, and when Dave saw a good price, I ordered up like 6 of them. Yeah, one time those bits, they were like $13 and something, and I thought, oh man, that may be a mistake, so I'm going to order. I think I ordered like 6 or 8 of them or something like that, but and I haven't seen them that cheap again. But yeah, if you check on Amazon every once in a while, you get lucky and the price will be way down. So, all righty. pointing out that you shouldn't use a down cut on PVC.
No.
I bet you there's a story behind that.
Oh yeah, and it involves fire.
And I bet you it involves smoke and a real funny smell.
Yeah, call me one day. We'll talk about PVC stories and acrylic and lasering on them, and catching places on fire.
Yeah.
We'll swap stories there. There we go.
Yeah, Dave said he found my long list. Yeah, that's just pretty much everything I've ever bought and used. I throw in there. Oh, he says no smoke, just melting.
Oh yeah.
Lots of melting, I bet.
You gotta move the bit slower and slice it faster. And yeah, definitely only 2 flute, preferably 1 flute for PVC. I used to cut it all the time at the sign shop.
Works with wood says thoughts on compression bits. Again, I would go with the CMT. That's what I use for compression bits, and other folks may have good ones too. I just haven't tried any, but since I know that CMT has my favorite bit for upcut, I got some of those compression.
And if you're asking whether to use one or not, again, that all depends on your machine. I mean, like say the Avid. I mean, Dave's Avid. It can, even though he probably doesn't dare to do it, I can guarantee you, because my Cam Master does, you can slice through an entire 3/4 ply at 80 to 120, 150 even inches per minute if the bit can take it. And that's what you need with the compression bit. You basically, you have to get past the 3/8. So if you're running a very thick piece of wood like a plywood, and you're running it on say an X-Carve or something like that, you cannot get that machine fast enough, well, without bowing. So it'll basically end up burning the bit because it's going too slow. So again, that it has its purpose, but that's a bit that you need a strong spindle for, a strong everything.
Yep. Well, we've been on here about an hour, getting close. So
Leo Stigger said something. He said if you need extra long bits, go to McMaster Car and get the aluminum cutting ones. I wasn't even aware that they had them.
Yep.
McMaster Car has everything.
Has everything.
I mean everything. You may not be able to find it because you have to know what they call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they have everything.
Everything.
And they're pretty proud of some of the stuff too.
I bet they are.
But that you know, I always like McMaster Car because it saves you so much time. You can go there and go, I know they have it. Yeah, I'm going to pay more for it, but I can order it. UPS will bring it to me next day. And boom, I didn't even have to leave the house to go shopping. Whereas other places may or may not have it. So by the time you look around all these other places where you think, well, they should have it, but then you find out they don't have it.
Huh.
You just go to McMaster Car first and go, I know they have it. You can get it because
Jerry says McMaster Car has it all, but it ain't cheap.
Yeah, yep. It ain't cheap, and they're not the most frugal shippers either.
Yeah. It's like the difference between the big box stores and Ace. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but here I got an Ace a lot closer than I do a big box store, and that's saying a lot because the big box stores are within a mile. And it's more convenient, less of a crowd, friendly people, and they always got a few of everything, not dozens, but more expensive. You pay for it. But if you're quick rush, there it is.
Somebody was asking, Keith says, when you cut aluminum, what is your depth of cut? I haven't cut a whole lot of aluminum on my Avid, but when I do, this last time, I only cut 25 thousandths, and I'm using a 1/4 inch upcut spiral. In fact, what I do when I go to cut aluminum, I have all these bits. You're going to laugh. I have all these old CMT bits where when I get old, I throw a new one in and I throw these other ones in a box. When I go to cut aluminum, that's what I grab. One of these
crappy ones,
because I figure if I break it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I cut it at this last thing. If I'd known somebody was going to ask me, I'd have brought the piece in here to show you what I cut. But I cut some 3/8 aluminum at 25 thousandths per pass. So it takes whatever that is, 16 passes or something. But I'm cutting it fast enough that it still only took about 6 minutes to cut a part out of a 12-inch by 5-inch part out of 3/8 aluminum.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I always grab for the old bits that I've thrown in my box.
Hey, Ragnar,
they're not any good for anything else anyway. They leave too many fuzzies on stuff, and I just tried it, and they actually cut the aluminum pretty good. So, and I'm not going after a, really fancy
burl on your.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get the part cut out without it messing up. So.
I wish I could read Chinese.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Tennessee Wood Sign says McMaster Car, and they say this right on the front of their catalog, has over 595,000 items in their catalog. Yep. I don't know who counted all those, but I'm sure somebody did. Yeah, Leo says, see, you can buy a Bridgeport mill from a MasterCard. I rest my case. They have everything.
Yep. Oh, boy.
Harry.
You saw that,
huh? Harry says, usually when I cut aluminum, it's my brand new Rockler T-Track.
Oh, yeah.
Harry, that just gives them character, man.
Yep.
I don't have a clamp anywhere on any of my machines, wooden or aluminum, that don't have some character.
If you had
the only ones I have that are pristine are the ones that I've cut out of the drop, and they're thrown in the drawer. I haven't used them yet. That's why. They're
if you had pristine. If you had any, I would actually accuse you of not being a true CNC or woodworker, because you have to. It's
because I mean, if you're like me, and I clamp everything, but if you're like me, you want to try to clamp. Like when I cut that little notch on my clamps, I don't know, it's cut maybe. I don't even know what the program calls for, 3/8 or maybe a 1/4. But you always try to get, or at least I do. I'm always trying to think about saving material, so I want to squeeze every bit I can. So I go, yeah, I think that'll miss the clamp. Well, sometimes I'm right.
Famous last words.
Sometimes I miss it by that much, but the good thing is using the plywood clamps like I like to use, or scrap wood, I should say. It doesn't have to be plywood. When it hits it, it don't even know it hit it, and it doesn't matter because you saw, if anybody's got the those files, I did that video a while back, and I know tons of people have been downloading that hold down file. But I put the same thing on both ends. So when I get one end cut up too bad, I just flip it around. And when I get that end cut up, I throw it.
It's not going to ruin your bit, basically.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt the bit. That's
never.
That's a good thing. And they're basically free. They're basically free.
Yeah.
You know, you've already bought the material and you've used it, and you're cutting it out of the drop that you would throw in the fire pit anyway. So,
yeah,
material. But let's see. Plus, there's another good. See, we're trying to find good things about McMaster. And John's got a good one here. He says, plus, McMaster has downloadable drawings and models of most things.
Yeah.
And that is so true. And when what's really cool, and of course, you guys may not do a lot of, you know, design work where you need a model of a bolt or a hex nut or, you know, that kind of thing. But they have it, and it's really nice to be able to get it, pull it in, and when you're designing things and you can see interference, because maybe if you don't put that hex bolt in there, you wouldn't know that there's going to be interference with something swinging and hitting the head of the bolt or whatever.
Yeah.
But when you put all that stuff in there, you can see it. But rather than have to draw it, McMaster has a ton of downloadable drawing. You can get them in all kinds of formats too. You can get a DWG, you can get a SolidWorks, you can get a STL or a, yeah, I think STL. I mean, there's just a whole bunch of different formats you can get them in. So, all right, we're going to start wrapping this one up here, folks.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. I think we're up. I don't see any other questions. Oh, well, he's asking, works with wood. How many Fusion 360 users are in here?
Well, Jerry Brown's the one. I know he uses it.
Yeah. I saw Patrick. Patrick.
Yeah. He uses it.
Uses it, I think. I have it because when I bought my Avid, I got a year's free subscription to their commercial stuff, but I probably haven't used it more than 30 minutes total since I've had it. So I'm not a big fan of Autodesk stuff. I've always been more SolidWorks person. I figured I wasn't even going to get it, and then I thought, well, they include it free, so I might as well tell them to get it. So I did, and I played around with it. I really should sit down and make myself learn it, I guess. But and I know it's not going to be that hard because I already know how to model in 3D. I just have to learn their icons and their way of doing things. But only done a couple of small things, single part things in it. Yeah, Ryan says hit the thumbs up. Yeah. You better hit it while you can, because we'll be getting the thumbs down later, I'm sure. Just saying. Just saying. Yeah, we get quite a few people there. Dave Matthews, D. Herman uses it. Marcelo uses it. Okay, yeah, don't forget to hit it on your way out. All right, well, we're going to wrap this one up. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I am still trying to get Melinda to come on. And yeah,
it'd be so nice.
Well, she'd have lots of things to talk about, but in particular, we had her on years ago, and she talked about the photo V-carve stuff.
Yeah.
I know she has since got Aspire, so I don't know what all she's doing with that. I don't know. So I'm still trying to get her on. And if there's anybody else out there that has, you know, built a Gatton CNC and would like to come on the show to talk about their experience, what they had trouble with, what they, you know, what they didn't have trouble with, or, you know, just anything about it, let me know, and we'll get you on the show. It's easy to do. So,
yep.
All righty. I guess that's it. So we're going to get out of here. Everybody have a safe weekend. We got, you know, a 3-day weekend, but I don't know, maybe not that big a deal to people anyway if you're stuck at home, because I don't know where everybody's at and what kind of restrictions you have on that kind of thing. But how did I hit that comment? But yeah, so be safe, and I guess we'll see y'all next week.
Have a great Memorial Day weekend, everyone.
See y'all,
everybody.